This is the original podcast edition of The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton, now part of the complete Pirates of Wefrevane series. The books are available as audiobooks, ebooks, and paperbacks. This podcast originally aired from 2010 to 2014. Stick around after the story for commentary from me, the author, more than a decade later. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers, a novel of pirates and Panamindorah. Written and narrated by Abigail Hilton. Book 3, Ashes. Warning: this novel was intended for people who shop in the grown-up section of the bookstore. It is not intended for children or young teens. If you need to ask whether you will be offended, you probably will. Episode 5.
Hi, I'm Nobilis Reed from the Nobilis Erotica podcast, and the podcast novel Scouts Remastered, available at podiobooks.com, and this is the story so far. The Hunties set Gerard to fight a huge mountain griffin named Felbane. Gerard seems unlikely to survive until Dakar jumps down into the pit with him. Her only weapon is a small herb knife. However, Gerard manages to get them both onto the griffin's back, where he cuts the wing restraints with the knife. As Felbane makes his first experimental leaps, a Huntie throws a javelin. Wild with fear and pain, the griffin shoots into the air over the city. He flies all day over the vast coastal forests of the lawless lands. When he descends that night, Gerard and Dakar manage to slip off his back without being mauled. Felbane follows them. He is limping with the javelin head lodged beneath one leg. He doesn't seem to be able to speak, and Gerard worries that he may attack. However, Gerard and Dakar have bigger problems, stranded in the wilderness without supplies. They follow a stream toward the sea, growing steadily hungrier, until they encounter a slave caravan. Dakar convinces the Huntie slavers to let her provide medical services in exchange for supplies. While Gerard is selecting equipment, he finds the Huntie's most troublesome slave staked out to starve in the middle of the camp. The emaciated creature is Silvio. Gerard listens numbly as a Huntie rattles off the problem Silvio has caused since his purchase. Gerard asks that Silvio be included in the supplies as griffin food. The slaver agrees, then casually mentions that they've cut out Silvio's tongue.
Chapter 12. A Sack. Gerard's head snapped around.
You did what?
Cut out his tongue. Even after we staked him and beat him every day, he kept saying things. He incited the slaves. He encouraged them. We finally shut him up, though.
Gerard was afraid that if he said anything else, he would betray himself, that the Huntie wouldn't give him Silvio if he knew they had a history. So he just put Silvio into the cotton grain sack they handed him. Silvio's eyes flicked up once before the mouth of the sack closed, a look of utter misery and despair.
If you need him to last a day or two, you might give him some water. I doubt he'll last longer than that. He quit eating a few days ago after we had his tongue out. I wouldn't trust him, though, even now. If I were you, I'd feed him to your beak cat tonight and be done with him.
Gerard tried to focus on selecting the supplies they would need for their journey to Zorn. He knew his choices were important, but he was having a hard time concentrating. The sight of Silvio had brought back a flood of memories, things he hadn't thought about since the mill and before.
They cut out his tongue.
Gerard shook his head.
Concentrate.
He brought all his will to bear and managed to find everything he thought they would need for fishing, mending clothes, and cooking. He selected 3 days' worth of dried meat and fruit. He even found packs and water skins.
They cut out his tongue.
He didn't look at the cotton grain sack, piled with the rest of the supplies. Although Silvio had clearly been too weak to walk, probably to crawl, a hyena was standing guard over him.
They cut out his tongue.
Dakar finished a little before Gerard. She came out, looked at what he'd selected, bargained briefly with the Huntie slaver, and managed to get a simple sword for Gerard. He didn't realize until he took it in his hands how much he'd missed his sword.
I haven't been armed since that room, since the last time I saw Silvio.
And he did not look at the grain sack, did not think about the way Silvio had flinched, did not. The Hunty gave them roasted meat to eat as they left. Gerard didn't ask what kind of meat it was. They started up the hill with their new packs, weighted with precious supplies. Probably the cheapest and oldest the slavers possessed, but still of enormous value to Gerard and Dakar. Gerard was wearing a newly acquired shirt and boots. He knew he could tailor his clothes to fit better when he had the chance. Most sailors were good at sewing, and Gerard was no exception. He'd mended sails often enough, and he'd made or mended his own clothes. He and Dakar had both received rough woolen jackets, too, and they had blankets and some extra cloth.
What's in the sack?
Gerard was holding it by the neck, not actually against him.
My old life, my enemy, my friend. A foxling slave. I said I wanted him for griffin food.
I didn't think we were feeding the griffin.
I don't want to talk about it.
Felbane had disappeared from the ridge, although Gerard felt certain he would pick up their trail again once they got away from the slave camp. The sight of Hunty had probably frightened him. As they walked through the dark wood, Gerard finally lifted the weight of the sack into his arms. Silvio was trembling. He felt so small, so bony, and feverishly warm. Gerard felt a pang and a wave of confusion.
I'm angry at you. I missed you. You got what you deserved. I'm terribly sorry.
They found the river again. After Gerard felt they'd put sufficient distance between themselves and the Hunty, he stopped and made a camp with an actual fire and their sleeping pads spread out around it. Part of him wanted to just leave Silvio in the grain sack, not to be cruel, but because Gerard didn't want to deal with the memories and feelings the sight of Silvio produced. He did take him out, though, on a blanket beside the fire.
Dakar, can you help me?
She didn't ask what he wanted help with. He wasn't sure himself. Silvio slid from the sack, curled into a protective ball, but he turned over on his back almost immediately, put both palms on the ground, and turned his head to the side. Classic submissive posturing. He was breathing quickly and still trembling. His eyes were glassy with fear and pain, and perhaps with fever. Gerard could see dried blood around the corners of his mouth. He could also see every rib.
Oh,
said Dakar, after a heartbeat's pause.
It's Silvio.
Gerard looked at her.
Of course she knew who I was, and Silvio was around a lot longer than me. He was better known. Still, to recognize him in this condition.
Then Silvio caught sight of Dakar. To Gerard's astonishment, he gave a whimper and tried to sit up. He began to truly hyperventilate. She put out a hand, but Silvio flinched away, tried to crawl into Gerard's lap. He got 2 handfuls of Gerard's coat and looked up at him with huge, desperate eyes. He was making a noise, trying to speak, but only produced a painful mewling. Gerard stared at him.
You're more afraid of her than of me or the griffin.
Then Silvio fainted. Chapter 13. Bleeding. Silvio did not wake that night, not even when they dipped him in the cold water of the river. They bathed him and picked off most of the fleas. His skin was mottled green and blue and black and purple. His fur was so thin that Gerard could see the bruises under it as well. His scalp had bloody patches where hair had been ripped out. His teeth were brown with old blood.
He's very sick. He's dying. Do you want me to try to heal him, Gerard?
Yes, Dakar. They cut out his tongue.
Even unconscious, Gerard hadn't been able to get Silvio's mouth open wide enough to see the damage. The light was poor in any case. Dakar thought about that.
I'm not sure I can heal him. He's a lot sicker than you were on the ship, and I'm not sure he wants to live. That makes it harder.
Gerard didn't ask how Dakar could tell whether Silvio wanted to live when he was unconscious.
Dakar, how do you know us? Can you tell me that? Why is Silvio afraid of you?
Dakar shifted on her seat beside the fire. She didn't meet his eyes. Gerard didn't think she would answer, but finally she said,
I hurt him once. I didn't mean to.
Hurt him? Physically?
Dakar considered.
No.
Gerard frowned. Silvio's fear had looked awfully physical to him.
Surely you weren't a lover.
A thought occurred to him.
Did you know him during his assassin days? That might explain some of your strangeness.
Dakar looked at the fire. She didn't answer. Gerard decided to let it go. Silvio did not wake the next morning. He was limp as a wet rag and much too warm. Gerard wrapped him in a blanket and carried him. He couldn't help remembering the first time he'd carried Silvio.
He was hurt then, too. I had to loop his tail over one arm, all that fluffy white fur.
Gerard remembered the smell and feel of heavy silk and fine wool and leather.
I wonder what happened to that coat, those boots. Did you throw them in the harbor? Or did you sell my clothes too, Silvio?
He remembered Silvio's office on the Fang, remembered the first time he'd come into Silvio's library.
He gave me a storybook and chocolate for Thessalon.
Gerard realized that he had not thought about her in some time, hadn't sung her songs, hadn't even said her name in his mind. Now he remembered exactly what her face had looked like. He remembered the way she'd giggled at Silvio's ridiculous finery in Port Holivares. He remembered the way she'd comforted him after the spiders, after the cave, after Morcella. Remembering hurt. Gerard felt like a nearly healed wound had been ripped open. Something inside him was bleeding again. He looked down at Silvio.
If I left you beside the river for Felbang, would that take the pain away? Could I just leave it with you there on the ground?
Gerard wanted him to wake up, wanted to say things, so many things. But Silvio didn't wake. When they stopped for the night, Dakar took him from Gerard. She sat with him while Gerard started the fire and laid out their sleeping things.
I'll have to start fishing soon. We'll run out of food.
Felbane had clearly gotten hungry enough to go on his first real hunt. He turned up on the edge of their camp with the remains of some sort of hoofed animal dangling from his beak. He sat just near enough for the firelight to dance in his yellow eyes while he crunched the bones. Silvio finally woke. Dakar had his head in her lap. As soon as he started to move, she sat him up and put a water skin to his lips. Silvio didn't want to open his mouth, but she more or less forced him, and at last he drank. Once he started, he didn't want to stop. Dakar took the skin away from him.
You need to eat, too.
Silvio slumped back down. He could support himself on his hands, just barely. At that moment, Felbane crunched another bone. Silvio turned and saw him. He gulped and gave a little moan. He turned to Gerard, sitting opposite the fire, and now he was shaking all over. Gerard felt horrible. He wanted to say, I won't feed you to the griffin. But what came out of his mouth was,
Why did you sell me?
Silvio curled over, his bony tail wrapping around him. Gerard heard his own voice snarl,
Do you have any idea how much that hurt? How lonely I was. All I had was time, Silvio, to think and hurt. Is that what you wanted?
Gerard realized he was shouting. Silvio dropped his forehead to the ground, his tail tucked under him.
You can't even respond. You just have to listen, and you can't even say anything clever.
The sadness washed over him again.
I missed you.
Silvio didn't move. After a moment, Gerard realized he'd fainted again. Dakar reached out and rolled him over.
Are you sure you want him to get better?
Gerard covered his face with his hands.
Yes.
Perhaps you shouldn't do that again.
Gerard stood and walked away from the fire. He was angry at himself, and Dakar was no comfort. Sometimes she hardly acted like a Shelt. Gerard went to his pack and found a hook and line. He fished in the moonlight for a long time. He knew his technique was all wrong, and he didn't care. He never caught anything. Chapter 14. The Sea. Silvio didn't properly wake that night, or the next morning. He was burning with fever. In his delirium, he would mew or whimper, or even open his eyes and look vaguely around. He shivered violently all day as Gerard carried him. Dakar made them stop periodically and dip Silvio in the cool river. Then sometimes he would clutch at whoever was holding him, plead inarticulately.
Silvio, we won't drop you,
Gerard said.
We won't drown you.
But he didn't really seem aware. During his half-lucid moments, Dakar would dribble water into Silvio's mouth, and he would swallow it. She chewed a bit of dried fruit, spat it out, mixed it with water, and he swallowed that too.
We need honey,
she said.
Honey would be best.
But they didn't have any honey. On the evening of that day, they came to the sea. The tide was in, and the beach wasn't very wide. They made a camp a little distance away beside the river. Gerard went to sleep with the sound of the surf in his ears, a sound he'd loved since childhood. Tonight, though, it brought him little comfort. Gerard woke in the dark. The fire had burned down to embers. He wasn't sure what had woken him. A sound, a smell, a dream. He glanced around. Alone. He was alone. Gerard leapt up. He was wearing nothing but his shirt, and he shivered in the cool air. Neither Dakar nor Silvio were by the fire, and he couldn't see Felbane.
Maybe she's gone to dip Silvio in the river again.
He squinted in that direction. He could see the flash of water between the trees.
Dakar?
No answer. Gerard went to the place where Silvio had been lying. He found a trail, the clear evidence of some small creature dragging through the weeds towards the beach. Gerard followed the trail. He stopped on the edge of the trees. The line of Silvio's ragged passage led over the sand and disappeared into the waves. Gerard sank slowly to his haunches. He stared at the marks in the sand, as though a careful examination might give an interpretation other than the obvious. Finally, he stood up. His whole body felt heavy. He followed the tracks until they turned into faint smears in the undulating tide. He waded out a little ways, scanned the rolling water, beautiful in the moonlight. Then everything blurred.
Silvio, I let you think, what? That I'd hurt you, that I'd feed you to Felbane.
Silvio had experienced an extraordinary amount of suffering in his life, and yet, as far as Gerard knew, he'd never tried to kill himself.
Until now. Until me.
He felt as though he'd been given one last chance to redeem something precious, and he'd thrown it away.
Gerard?
He turned at the sound of Dakar's voice.
Are you looking for the foxling?
Gerard nodded. He didn't dare hope.
He's over here.
Alive?
Croaked Gerard, imagining a soppy mass of lifeless fur.
Yes.
Dakar hesitated.
That is what you wanted, isn't it?
Yes. Alive is good. Alive is very good.
Gerard realized when he saw Silvio that Dakar must have plucked him out of the waves. He was soaking wet, huddled against a driftwood log. He looked even smaller, bonier. He flinched when Gerard's shadow fell across him. Gerard crouched.
Silvio, please look at me.
Silvio raised his head, an expression of glazed misery on his face. He looked down almost immediately and scratched in the sand with a stick. Gerard thought he was writing, but then saw it was a picture.
Sword?
Guessed Gerard. Silvio nodded, then wrote the Grishnard character for please over it. Then he drew a stick figure of a griffin and put an X through it. He looked up at Gerard, his eyes imploring. Gerard could have cried.
Silvio, I won't hurt you. I couldn't. I certainly won't feed you to the griffin. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear.
Silvio didn't react in any way that Gerard had expected, just looked down at his drawings again. Gerard picked him up. He was feather-light, even wet.
Dakar?
She came and walked with him back to the camp.
He's not to be alone. One of us with him awake all the time. Do you understand? Can you help me do that?
She nodded. Back at camp, they got the fire going again, toweled Silvio off, and set him next to the blaze to dry thoroughly. His fever seemed to have broken. Dakar gave him water and some dried meat. He didn't want to eat, but she was persistent, and at last he took a small amount and chewed. He would not meet anyone's eyes. He liked the fire, though. He got as close as they'd let him and stared blinking into the flames. He put his hand out once, too close, and Gerard said sharply,
Silvio!
He withdrew his hand, buried his face in his arms, and rocked back and forth. Gerard sat with him for the rest of the night. He didn't feel like he could ever sleep again.
Silvio, what I said to you wasn't fair. You told me to take Thessalon and leave. You told me not to trust you. You said it in the clearest possible terms, and I didn't listen. I have no one to blame for that but myself.
Silvio's already drooping ears quivered. He still had his face in his arms. Gerard took out some of the cloth the slavers had given them and started working on clothes for Silvio. Gerard measured him with a bit of twine from their packs, allowed a little extra room for something approaching a normal weight. Silvio did whatever Gerard asked as well as he could, although he was weak and clumsy. Their eyes met once, and Silvio looked quickly away.
Please don't look at me like that, like you're afraid of me. Silvio, I only mentioned the griffin because I couldn't think of any other excuse to get that slaver to hand you over. Please forgive me for what I said earlier. I didn't mean it in the way it sounded, not as a threat. Please.
Silvio made a choking noise. He reached out and smoothed the dirt beside him. Gerard scooted over to see. Very carefully, Silvio wrote, You apologize to me. Gerard smiled.
Isn't that the way we usually do it?
Silvio's shoulders shook. Gerard scooped him up, blanket and all. This time Silvio put his arms around Gerard's neck and buried his face against his shoulder. Gerard thought he might have been crying, but Silvio cried so soundlessly it was hard to tell. Gerard held him until dawn turned the sky overhead to gold, until the sun came up, until Dakar woke, until Silvio relaxed and went to sleep. Chapter 15. Nightmares. Gerard had been planning on fishing that day and letting Dakar finish Silvio's clothes. However, Dakar, it seemed, knew very little about sewing anything other than wounded flesh. She said that she could fish and went off towards the sea with line, hooks, and some of the newly cut poles. Gerard wanted to get Silvio's clothes finished. The air smelled of fall. The forest was mostly evergreen, but a few leafy trees near the water were turning extravagant shades of red and gold. Soon the winter storms would come, icy rain and sleet. Silvio would need something warm to wear. Besides, Gerard had an idea that clothes would make him feel better.
They did me. We're staying here,
Gerard told Dakar.
Until he's well enough to travel. There's no need to hurry, and we're not going to.
So Gerard worked all day beside the fire, and Silvio slept. Every little while Gerard would wake him and make him drink and eat something. Never very much, but something. Gerard remembered how much he'd slept in Dakar's dispensary aboard the Mantis.
That was my body recovering.
However, he also remembered how much he'd slept in those confused days after they'd sold him, and during the first red month at the mill.
That was depression and denial and wanting to die.
Towards evening he woke Silvio and made him attempt to stand. He did try, and Gerard caught him when he fell. Gerard expected him to go back to sleep at once, but he seemed restless. Finally, he got a bit of charred stick from the fire and wrote, on a fresh piece of wood, "I didn't kill Thess." Gerard was shocked.
I know that, Silvio. I never thought you did.
Silvio looked relieved and slumped back down. Before he could curl up to sleep again, Gerard screwed up his courage to ask,
What happened to Alsair?
Silvio hesitated. Finally he wrote, "You don't want to know." Gerard shut his eyes.
You're probably right.
Dakar returned after dark with 6 large fish. Gerard was pleased, but confused. When he went to clean the fishing equipment and the fresh water of the river, it looked unused. When he offered Dakar some of the cooked meat for supper, she shook her head.
I already ate.
Gerard frowned.
Did you make a fire out there on the beach?
He had their only flint. Dakar just looked at him with her black eyes.
I don't.
Yes, I know.
By the second day, Gerard had a shirt and trousers for Silvio. Over the course of the day, he was able to make Silvio eat almost an entire fish. Gerard took a blanket apart and began working on a jacket. Silvio still slept all day, but when Gerard woke him that evening, he was able to stand and take a few wobbly steps before collapsing. Gerard thought he looked marginally more himself, dressed. The fabric was heavy brown cotton, uninteresting and utterly unlike Silvio, but it was clothes. Dakar had been gone since dawn. Gerard had no idea where. Around dusk, Felbane came prowling through the trees. He had another large, hoofed animal in his beak. Gerard expected him to sit down a little ways away and munch on it, but instead, Felbane brought it to within 10 paces and dropped it on the ground. He looked at Gerard and whined. Then he backed away. Gerard stared at the hoofed animal.
Looks like we'll have plenty of food for the nonce.
Felbane whined again and lay down. He was still limping.
Felbane,
said Gerard, and watched his ears perk up.
Can you talk?
Felbane watched him for a moment longer, and then started half preening, half picking at the feathers of his lower right chest, near where the javelin head must be lodged. Gerard turned back to his work on Silvio's jacket.
Hurts.
Gerard turned very slowly. The voice had been soft, almost a whisper. Felbane was watching him, his eyes wary. He was lying on his belly, but he had all 4 feet under him, ready to flee.
You can talk.
Felbane's yellow eyes never left Gerard's face.
Can you understand me? You can just nod, but you don't have to say anything.
Very slowly, Felbane dipped his head. Gerard broke into a smile.
I wasn't sure. Did they beat you when you talked?
Another long pause. Then Felbane dipped his head again.
I won't do that. As if I could. I want you to talk to me. Otherwise I don't know what you want.
Hurts,
repeated Felbane in a near whisper.
I'm sure it does. I could get that javelin head out, but you'd have to let me touch you. You'd have to lie down on your side, and it would probably hurt when I pulled it out. Do you think you could do all that and not scratch or bite me?
Felbane considered. He clearly wasn't sure. Gerard took a step towards him, and the griffin rose, hissing, ears flat back against his head, and limped away. Gerard shook his head.
If you can't even let me approach you, I don't know how I'm supposed to stop the hurt.
He turned back to the fire and saw Silvio awake and staring.
He's got a javelin head under his right leg,
explained Gerard.
He got it when... Well, it's a long story. I'll tell you sometime. It involves you being right and me being wrong.
He was trying to make Silvio smile, but he failed.
He's not tame. I didn't even know he could speak until now.
Silvio smoothed a patch of sand beside him and scribbled, "Better than me." Gerard sat down beside him.
I'll get you some paper. We'll figure something out. Be patient with yourself.
Silvio burrowed back into his blankets. Dakar returned well after dark to report that she'd found some sort of abandoned cabin, a day's hike to the north. Gerard reprimanded her for going so far without telling him first, but she only looked at him with those faintly iridescent black eyes. She emptied her pockets beside the fire, and Gerard was unsurprised to see a collection of interesting stones and a couple of pretty shells. She handed one to Silvio, some sort of black clam-like shell, its interior a deep, pearly purple. Silvio looked at her quizzically, but he took the shell and lay beside the fire, watching the flames dance in its reflective surface.
Gerard?
He jerked awake.
What? What?
Dakar was leaning over him. She'd been on watch, and her eyes looked worried in the firelight. Even before she continued, Gerard heard a low, keening noise like a trapped animal.
Gerard, something is wrong with Silvio. I thought you might want to see.
Gerard was already up and crawling around the fire. There was certainly something wrong. Silvio's blankets were knotted around him like ropes. He'd curled into a ball so tight that Gerard couldn't figure out at first where all his arms and legs were. He was grinding his teeth and making a continuous low whine. When Gerard touched him, he felt eerily like something dead, every muscle taut as though rigor mortis had set in. Gerard worried for a moment that he might have lockjaw or have been poisoned.
Silvio. Silvio, wake up!
Gerard shook him, repeated his name. Finally, Silvio gasped and opened his eyes. Gerard saw that he'd bitten his lower lip, and it was bleeding profusely. He stared up at Gerard for a moment, tried to say something, remembered he couldn't, and covered his face with both hands. Gerard gathered him up and sat down beside the fire. Dakar found a clean rag, dipped it in cold river water, and gave it to Silvio to hold against his lip. Silvio huddled against Gerard. His heart was beating like a frightened bird's.
Nightmare?
Asked Gerard. Silvio nodded. He had his eyes screwed shut. Gerard sat with him until he stopped shaking, and his lip stopped bleeding. Silvio had bitten through his lip, as Gerard discovered on closer examination the next morning. His palms had bloody nail prints. From the way he moved, Gerard guessed that he was sore from clenching every muscle in his body. He tried to refuse food, and when Gerard insisted, he chewed slowly, as though it hurt. Gerard had been told over and over that Silvio was prone to nightmares, but he'd never envisioned anything like this. When Gerard had bad dreams, he woke up crying. When Silvio had bad dreams, he woke up bleeding. It happened again 2 nights later. Even when he didn't have brutal nightmares, Silvio was not a peaceful sleeper. He always managed to have his blankets in knots by morning. He seemed to sleep better in the day, often curled up against Gerard. He was beginning to walk fairly well, but the nightmares made him sore and slowed him down.
I wonder what would help,
said Dakar, and Gerard had a suspicion that she knew.
Dakar, are you discovering sarcasm?
Discovering what?
Never mind.
On the 7th night, Gerard woke to the feeling of eyes. Dakar was supposed to be on watch, but when he sat up, he didn't see her in camp at all. Silvio was crouching a little way from Gerard's pallet. He was wearing his shirt and a blanket, and he had his bony arms and tail wrapped around his legs. He didn't move, didn't try to write anything, just sat there watching with those sad eyes.
Come here, Silvio.
Silvio came slowly, like a nervous wild animal. He smoothed out the sand beside Gerard's pallet and wrote, "Do you want anything?" and then crouched there with his head down, like a prisoner awaiting execution. Gerard wanted to say, "How many times do I have to tell you?" Instead, he reached out and pulled Silvio down beside him.
Rest. You're safe.
It was what Malpin had said to him as a child.
You don't have to pay for this.
Silvio gave a long sigh. He crawled under the blankets, curled up against Gerard's ribs, and laid his head on his shoulder. Gerard hesitated, then put an arm around him. Moments later, Silvio was sound asleep, breathing softly and evenly. He had no more nightmares that month. You have been listening to The Guild of the Cowry Catchers by Abigail Hilton. Copyright Abigail Hilton. Cowry Catchers is an illustrated podcast. Artwork for this episode was provided by Bo Kyer and Green Sprite. To view these illustrations and to learn more about this world and its author, visit the website at www.cowrycatchers.com. This podcast included the vocal talents of
Nathan Lowell
as Gerard,
Norm Sherman,
as Silvio,
Rish Outfield,
as a Hunty Slaver,
R.E. Chambliss,
as Dakar,
Tim Dodge,
as Felbane. Special thanks goes to Brian Lincoln, Charlie Blanchard, and Alex Thomaser for helping with the first pass audio editing for this book. Sound effects for this podcast were provided by SoundSnap, the Free Sound Project, and Sound Dogs. The intro music for this podcast was Grace by Beth Quist. The outro music is Everywhere, also by Beth Quist. Both were licensed with permission from Magnatune.net. Music for Book 3 of Cowry Catchers included selections from Digital Juice at digitaljuice.com and Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. It also included additional music from Beth Quist, Diana Rowan, and Jamie Saber, all from Magnatune.net. All music was licensed and used according to the terms of the websites. This is a standard copyright now. This podcast is provided for your personal enjoyment only. You can download and archive the episodes for your personal use. You may not re-upload, mirror, or publicly redistribute the audio files, nor can you alter, remix, or create derivative works. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Sunlight sparkling in the forest, dancing, dancing on the alpine waters. Ride the moonbeam into the galaxies. Second star to the left and straight on and straight on and straight on till when I find yours.
And I'm back. This is 2025 Abby, coming to you with some thoughts on the episode. So first of all, the person who introduced this was Nobilis Reed of the Nobilis Erotica podcast. He has been a fan of the show for a long time, maybe since Prophet of Panamindorah days, but certainly since Cowry Catchers. Nobilis does eventually play a bit part on the podcast. I checked his podcast feed, and it looks like it's still going strong. So if that's something that's interesting to you, you should check it out. So the story itself. Silvio is back. You knew I was not going to completely discard him. I remember originally telling Norm I don't need any lines for this section, and then realizing that in fact I did need various grunts, laughs, and whimpers. So all of his lines for this section were like noises. I do still enjoy the part with Felbane that feels kind of like taming a feral cat, except a feral tiger maybe that could kill you. Everyone has tamed a feral cat, right? You guys have all tamed a feral cat at some point. It was a frequent feature of my childhood, such that I actually had like a system by the time I was 10. This is how I tame feral cats. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give spoilers. This is a part of the book that I would describe as a survival story. And that's really kind of a whole genre of fiction, and I would say a subgenre of fantasy. And it's a genre I like. I do like a good survival story. Hunter's Unlucky, or actually after the prologue part, Hunter's Unlucky, the whole first part, is basically a survival story. And it bleeds into other things and gets more complicated, but I do enjoy a good survival story. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to say about this part of the story. It would be very easy to give spoilers by accident. I will talk to you guys later. This is Abigail Hilton, and you have been listening to the Pirates of Wefravain saga. Join me on Patreon for early episodes, long-form interviews, forum access, personal updates, and lots of artwork, including maps and species charts. That's patreon.com/Abigail Hilton. If you want the whole story now with no interruptions and some remastering of the early books for sound quality, you can find the entire series at shop.abigailhilton.com, along with all my other novels. The audiobooks are delivered by BookFunnel. Background music was Hidden Sky by Jamie Sieber, licensed from Magnatune.net circa 2014. The Guild of the Cowry Catchers podcast is an audio adaptation of the Pirates of Wefravain saga, written and produced by Abigail Hilton. Original production copyright 2010, all rights are reserved to the author.